Hi, I want to talk about wine regions today. You might be wondering, what's all this stuff with the regions? Why do I need to know about regions? What's an appellation, a DOC, and some of these other letters and names and things I see on labels? Is it really important to know that? Yes and no. I mean, if you just want to get a wine and enjoy it, you can do that. You can kind of get an idea what's in it. If you look at the label, it'll tell you the grapes. But, once you get beyond that, it's kind of nice to know where it comes from and what to expect from that. I'll give you a good example. If you go to France, there's an area called Côtes du Rhône. It's in the southeast part, right on the Mediterranean. Well, actually not on the Mediterranean, it's on the Rhône River. And Côte in French is basically bank, like the banks of a river, and so we're talking Côtes du Rhône, banks of the Rhône. This is a particular wine region, and they're known for a particular type of wine. Côtes du Rhône, surprise. But Côtes du Rhônes are made up of very specific grapes. Grenache is one, and Syrah is another. Those are two real common ones, and there's some others. I'm not going to go into that now. But the Côtes du Rhône wines do have a very distinct flavor, and when you see that it's a Côtes du Rhône, you pretty much know what it is going to taste like before you drink it, if you've had them before. Now, I got a bottle from South Africa, a bottle of wine, not a Côtes du Rhône, and it was labeled South Africa, which is fine, and I'm familiar with the vintage, not the vintage, but I looked in to see what it was made of, because it just said red wine, I believe. So I turned the bottle around, looked on the label, and it listed the same grapes as you would find in a Côtes du Rhône. I thought, well, isn't this interesting? I wonder if they've actually used the Côtes du Rhône style. Poured it out, tasted very, very different. Even though it was the same type of grapes as I would find in the Côtes du Rhône, it had a very different flavor profile. Much more fruit forward, much less acid than I would have in a Côtes du Rhône, and a much fuller, heavier bodied wine. So it was interesting to me to compare that. It's like, okay, here's the grapes in Côtes du Rhône, here's the same grapes in South Africa. So there's a little comparison there. Now, if you take the exact same grape, a single varietal, Zinfandel for example, and you get it from Lodi, California, Lodi being a town and a region, and like I said, red Zinfandel is the grape. If you get that same grape or same wine made from red Zinfandel from a different part of the world or a different part of California, very different profile. A red Zinfandel from Sonoma County, which is just west of Napa Valley, is going to have a much different flavor, even though it's the same grape, than a Lodi. And why is that? Different terroir, different growing regions, heat, temperature, all that type of stuff, and the different style of making it. So that's kind of where the region comes in. If you go to a store to buy a bottle of wine, and maybe you're in a different town, you're not familiar with it, and no one there is, you don't feel comfortable asking, or they're too busy to ask, you don't want to wait, you can look at the shelf, and if you start to know your regions, then you can go down the aisle and say, okay, well, here's what I'm in the mood for, let's see. Go to France, and yeah, the French section, and here's a Bordeaux. I've got a pretty good idea what that's going to taste like because I've had Bordeaux in the past. So that is one way to help yourself out. Again, just going back to the Lodi I was talking about, if that's what you're in the mood for, you go to that section where they've got Lodi wines from California. And again, Lodi is the region, not the name of the grape. And you pick up a Lodi, you pretty much know what you're going to be drinking. So it's the familiarity. If you want something that's real fruit forward, or you want something that's more suitable for dinner or whatever it is, a lot of times the region can help you out to understand that. Now, a little bit to the other point, the appellation, the DOCs, these are terms used by different governments. Appellation is something that's used, I'm not saying that with the French in mind, but it's used by France, and that basically tells you what part of the country it came from. And it can more specifically tell you within that part, Bordeaux for example, which sub-region of Bordeaux it came from. These are all naming characteristics that are restricted by French law, that you can only use that term on your label if it meets certain criteria. For example, the grapes have to be grown there, and the wine has to be, or the grapes have to be turned into wine in that same region. Those types of things are what the laws are looking to preserve. It's to say if a customer buys a bottle of Bordeaux wine that's from a specific wine growing region within Bordeaux, then if they see that on the label, they know what they're going to get, and the French law basically saying we're guaranteeing that that's what it is. DOC is a term used in Italy meaning much the same thing. It's from a particular region, and all restrictions apply to that. Within the United States, there are AVAs, agricultural, what is it? Something like agricultural and ecological areas. I mean, I've got that wrong. I'll have to look that up again. But AVA is kind of the American equivalent. So if it says Napa Valley, then that means the wine came from Napa Valley. If it says Sonoma County, then it came from Sonoma County. Now, if it says Sonoma County, Russian River, well, then it came from, okay, here's Sonoma. Russian River is this little part of Sonoma County. So that means this little chunk is Russian River within the larger grouping of Sonoma. Same type of thing with going back to Bordeaux in France. You've got Bordeaux, which is a region of France. Within that region, you've got Médoc, or you may have Sauternes, or some other region. But that just tells you within this overall region, it came from this smaller region. So those types of things are usually governed by local law, local meaning national for that country. That just helps you determine what you're getting and gives you a better idea of what it's going to taste like, once you're familiar with them, of course. So if you've never had a Bordeaux, that doesn't really mean anything to you. If you've never had a something from Russian River in Sonoma County, that's not going to tell you anything until you try it. But at least you know, once you've tried it, you start to get an understanding of what they're like. So always pay attention to those, even if you don't know what they mean or don't recognize them. That's how you begin to learn. You drink a Russian River, you drink another Russian River, you drink a third Russian River, and by that time you're getting an idea of what Russian River wines taste like. That's how those will help you out. If you want to go that far and really learn that, great. I encourage it, although it's not entirely necessary. Just kind of keep it in the back of your head. I liked it when it came from this part. I didn't like it when it came from that other area. So, hopefully you learned something for this. Kind of rattled through them really fast. There's a lot to learn. A lot to learn about that. And it's kind of a lifetime pursuit, so don't feel bad if you don't get it all at once. In the meantime, enjoy your wine and cheers.